All right. Welcome to another episode of this podcast called Life, hosted by Triumph and Transcend. I'm Jessica. This is my husband, Danny, and we have a special guest here today. We got Azie Faison, and I'm going to let him come on and I'm going to let him tell a little bit about himself before we get into those heavy hitting questions. So go ahead, my man.
Peace, how you feeling? It's a pleasure to be a part of the show.
Thank
Um, my name is Azie Faison. If you don't know me, the movie Paid in Full was written by me based upon my crew and who we was in the 80s growing up as teenagers. Created a rap group called Mob Style just as well, if you never heard about that.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I believe the first album we done was the blueprint to how gangster rap was started on this coast, which is the East Coast, without a doubt. A lot of people use our blueprints to create their blueprint. Um, Went through a lot of tragedies in the game, got in the head twice, returned to try to bring forth a message to the youth and let them know you're not walking our footsteps, and try to help save a generation that came after us, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Wrote a
yeah.
book called Wrote a book called Game Over just as well. A few documentaries out there based on our story, and it's a pleasure to be on your show, man. So let's make it happen, man.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. So, my first thing is that I wanted to kind of get a little bit more into your background and understanding how that impacted you. And so, my first question is, what was it like growing up with six siblings? 'Cause that's a pretty good sized family. So, what was that like growing up in New York? Six siblings, single mom. What was that like?
It was definitely hard, right? But your mom's gonna always try to make it seem like everything's all right, like you're not poor, but you are poor. And it was a fire. I was born in the Bronx, and when I was 6 years old, it was a fire in the Bronx. A major fire, so we had to leave that building. We lived in a shelter for about 6 months, and that's when they placed us in Harlem on 146 and St. Nicholas Avenue. And that was the beginning of my journey, I believe, at the age of 6. With I had eight of us, 8 children. So an apartment with a 3-bedroom apartment, it was kind of hard, man. But under the circumstance, we did what we had to do on welfare. When the welfare people come, your pops got to climb out the window because, you can't let them know that you got a man in the house. And he had to climb out the window. Luckily, we lived on the first floor, so, you're seeing that every day. Your mother struggling. You just want to make ends meet by any means necessary, basically.
Right, right. And so what's your relationship like now with your siblings?
We cool. We still stay in touch, but everybody went their own separate ways, but we still stay in touch. My little sister, she passed away. My little brother, he passed away, and my middle sister passed away. My pops passed away, and my mother passed away. I feel that they are now more alive than dead now. If you can understand where I'm coming from, because
Yeah.
the spirit never dies. You feel me? So
Mm.
rest in peace to them.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I'm sorry for your loss, man. Condolences.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. And I know that you had mentioned about, your mom being a single mom. So what was your relationship like with your dad?
My dad, he was there. He was there. My dad was there. My
Okay.
dad was there. He was a quiet man, though. Very quiet man. This man, I must say, this man. I never seen this man do anything wrong. This man was he had like 2 outfits, man. You
Mm.
feel me? He would go to work. He would come home and just, I can't even describe how he was, man. He gave my mom, when he got paid, he gave my mother every dime to help us. And until he passed away, man, this man was, I never seen this man do anything wrong, man. All he
Right.
wanted to watch his Western movies and just sit and watch. It was really a really strange, but a good person, man. Even when I was in the game, I don't want none of that money, man. Leave me alone. Stay away from me with that. Like, you know what I mean? He was you couldn't even give him anything. Like, I'm good. I'm all right. And I respect that now more so than then.
Right.
Because back then I was looking at that nigga jealous, fuck that nigga. But now I understand him more now than then, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Because one time, this always stays in my mind. One time, I think I might have been like 10 or 9, and he was watching the Western picture, Cowboys and Indians. And he asked me a question. He said, "Who you rooting on, man?" I said, "The Cowboys, man. Like, they're the good guys, they're the sheriff." He said, "Man, you crazy, man." He said, "One day you're going to wake up, you're going to realize who's the good guy."
Mm.
I didn't know it back then, but now we know the Indians was the good guy.
Right.
Right or wrong, you feel me?
Yeah.
So, I understand him more so now than then. Trust me. I respect him. I love him more because I look into his thoughts. And going into his thoughts, I could understand exactly who he was. You feel me?
Right.
Real. That's it. So, rest in peace. We have the same name, Azie Faison. That's his name. I'm Junior. You feel me? So to me, he is the real Azie.
Okay.
Amen.
Right.
Yes.
So your pops wasn't a man of a lot of words. He led by example.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Never seen him do cheating. Nothing, man. Nothing wrong, man. Nothing wrong. I must say.
Right. How do you feel like seeing him influence the way you chose to parent?
Repeat that.
I said, how do you feel like that influenced your parenting down the line?
The world we in today is a big difference from then, man. That's this world. We only had like 13 channels when we was coming up, if you understand what I mean. TV, today, internet, these kids is being raised by their phones, and like you could tell them one thing, and you could see in their mind, like, yeah, right. You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's really hard. You could try to lead, but these kids looking like they saying, "Get out the way." Huh? But it's our world now, and I respect it. But I'm gonna still keep them protected, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at it, because they on a mission, and I can see it. You know what I mean? That's how I look at that.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely understand that. And I think it's important too that we have that relationship with our kids where we can find that balance.
Yeah, definitely. You got to stay in touch with them. You feel me? Let them know that there's someone they can, be with, and try their best to keep them away from that foolishness. That gang violence, that's not it. Stay out of it. I don't care what you say. And try to stop them from listening to that drill music. You know what I mean? That's not helpful. I understand why it's being created, but just as well, I try to avoid them from being, listening to that.
Right.
But I see the reason why it's created, because these old heads is like holding up the youth in what I call divine traffic. You feel me? Because these dudes is 50 or 60, and they're not letting the young boys come in. The rap game wasn't created for just y'all.
Right.
It was to see, us as a whole. You get it? So if you blocking them from getting in, you're holding them up in divine traffic, and now it's causing a spiritual road rage, and they're killing each other. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, a lot, a lot.
Yeah. So they're in drill music when you should have a team, the ones that's in power, they know what I'm talking about. You should have a roster. Okay, I'm gonna bring Shorty up next, but have him go against your man, but without beef. Just make it like an NBA, and everybody eat, man. Make sure everybody gets their money correctly and stop robbing people and play fair. Because it wasn't created for that. You know
Nah,
what I mean? Pass the baton and let the next group come on. You got yours to next. You feel me? If you keep grabbing and grabbing, it's all mine. You harnessing the energy. That's going to cause starvation. And then niggas going to do what they got to do to eat. That's how it goes. Man. You know what I mean? When you ask yourself why you got to pay bodyguards, there's your reason. Man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If it makes sense.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
we see that so much out here
Yeah.
with the young ones that we have out here, and people will take, this idea from the music and all this stuff, and next thing you know, they shooting each other up in the streets.
Like it's
Yeah.
nothing. Like
Right.
life don't mean anything. It's like if they playing one of these video games, Grand Theft Auto or something. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
mix with some alcohol and life don't mean nothing. They become, and then once they get locked up, that's when they come back into reality. Holy shit, what the fuck I do? So
Right.
to them, I say put yourself on probation before you get put on probation. You understand? The thought comes before the action. Think about it before you do something, man. You feel me? Don't act and then think. That's living backwards, man.
Right.
Think and do. You
Mm-hmm.
understand? Yeah.
Right. And not enough people are doing that right now.
Yeah.
Nah, they're just moving off the impulse and it's fast. You feel me? Then they get in a bunch of trouble, then they want to blame it on somebody else. So you can't blame nothing on nobody because that was your decision within.
Right.
If you think about it first and follow your first thought, to me, all the time before the second thought. Because
Right.
the first thought speaks very low. But to me, it's God.
Mm-hmm.
You might say, yo, I want to go to this party tonight. The first thought says, that's all. But the second thought be like, yo, you just got the new shoes. You can pull the car out. You know what I mean? Go meet some chicks. It keeps pulling you. And you say, all right, I'm going. Then you go. And something happens. Damn, man. I wish I'd have followed my first mind. Follow your first mind. Now you walking in the kingdom of heaven. You walking with God. You follow that first. Listen, you follow that first mind and never listen to the second mind. Never listen to it. You'll be on point. But if you listen to the second mind, you feel me? It's throwing you off your mind. And I don't even listen to my second mind. He don't listen. He can't even get into me no more. So he don't even come around no more.
Right.
And that's that. I don't care what you got to offer, how much it is, how big the bag is. I'm good, brother.
All money ain't good money.
At all. It ain't about the money. Once you come to realize it's not about the money, that's when you can understand what's going on. It's about energy. You understand? Energy creates a currency. Currency is what they make the money off of. And if you have stronger energy than them, they after you more so than you after them with their wealth. If you get it. That's what it's about. At the end of the day.
Yeah. And so then so I have another question for you. What was one small gesture that you feel like a stranger made that made a big impact on your life?
What was a small gesture? Repeat that one more time, please. I need to hear that.
What's a small gesture from a stranger that made a big impact on your life?
I believe, to me, that made a big impact on my life when